He was shot multiple times with a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol. He barely survived, which many people thought would be life-ending injuries. He's a retired police officer. The suspect was killed. He's here to talk about the incident, his long road to recovery, and life after. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. In the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, we are joined by special guests talking about their experiences, the realities of investigating crimes, plus those who have experienced horrendous trauma. Police, first responders, military, and victims of crime share their stories. Hi, I'm John J. Wiley. In addition to being a broadcaster, I'm also a retired police sergeant. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com, and also like us on Facebook. Search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Are you looking for great products that can be game changers for people, for their physical health, for their overall well-being? Go to letpops.com. That's letpops.com. I take these Juice Plus products. They make a world of difference for me. Better energy. I sleep better every night. Full night sleep every night. Zero leg cramps and more. Many people will tell you about the wonderful things that these products do for them. Plus, it can be a phenomenal business opportunity. You can help people improve their lives, and for a very small fee, get a complete back end, complete website, zero inventory, no shipping, none of that stuff. Get full details on our website, letpops.com. That is letpops.com. Calling us from Northeast Florida, we have Jared Reston on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Jared is a retired police officer from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department. Now, I'll have him explain in a moment. I know it sounds weird, and I'm sure people right now going, hey, how can it be a police officer working for a sheriff's department? Well, that's one of the only agencies I know in the United States that is a sheriff's department that has police officers. Am I correct?
We're kind of like a metro, so like, Las Vegas. So we just consolidated in 1968, the city of Jacksonville. So it's the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. We wear blue. The side of our cars say police or sheriff, and then the back of our cars say police.
And what's ironic about that, I live in South Florida, is, and when Jared says we wear blue, most of the sheriff's departments in Florida wear green. And they have green all over their cars, and they say sheriff. And it's not a dispute thing. It's just a difference thing. And we're all on the same team. We're all blue.
Yes.
During your career, and we'll talk about Jacksonville in a moment. By the way, I love Jacksonville, Florida. I love the area. And Jared and I talked quickly before the interview. One of the things I love about Jacksonville, I did a morning show in Lake City, Florida for about 5 years, and I go to Jacksonville quite often. And if you go I-10 from downtown Jacksonville, you could be in stone cold country in 15 minutes and still be in Jacksonville, still be in Duval County.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. That's one of the cool things about working for Jacksonville is you can be rural and urban in the same department, same job.
Isn't that's so ironic? Coming from a cop from Baltimore, that just seems so weird because there was no rural anywhere in Baltimore.
For sure.
And one other thing that people should be aware of, Jacksonville, is that the largest city land-wise in the United States?
Yes, so it's the largest city land mass-wise because we consolidated. So the county of Duval is the city of Jacksonville. That's
another odd thing. And one last thing. You would think that when it comes to violent cities in the state of Florida, in the southeast part of the United States, Jacksonville, Florida wouldn't be top of mind on that list. Yet it's one of the most violent cities in Florida for sure, if not the United States. Am I wrong on that one?
You are. Per capita, we are the most violent.
That's mind-blowing. I know that so many Jacksonville officers that have either been killed or severely injured, maimed, disabled in the line of duty from gun violence, from altercations. It's a long list. It's not just you. It's a huge, long list, and it doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon.
No, we just had 2 shot this year, actually.
That's it's a sad thing. And your story, and I want people to understand this, this is, and I say this all the time when it's appropriate, we're talking with a walking, talking miracle, because you were in a situation, Jared, as a police officer, that many people do not survive. You were shot multiple times with a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol?
Yeah, for sure. I shot 7 times.
7 times. And we're here talking to you.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of luck or some intervention in that one.
Somebody had their hand on you. And I had this conversation with many guests before, and I'm going to ask you this as a question. There were many great cops I worked with that were killed, that were severely injured. And I used to always think, Jared, that'll never happen to me because I'm just that good. And yeah, I know it sounds egotistical or whatever. And then the older I get, the more I realize they were good too. And I can't come up with an explanation why I'm alive and they're not.
And there is no reason for it except for, God needed them at that time and he took them.
That's sometimes, and I want more answers than that in my old age, but that's all I got. That's all I can come up with.
Well, and that's really all you can. I mean, what can you do? You know what I mean? They reached out and touched them.
The other thing is, and I'm going to ask you this as a question, I was in multiple shootings, 4 shootings in a little more than 10 years. And by the way, none were like the media says. The first 2, I never fired a shot back. The second 2 were long, drawn-out affairs. Thankfully, everyone survived. I was never shot. I was hurt, but never shot. And I had multiple close calls, and I start thinking sometimes, and there's no logic to it, Jared, but it's like, how did I make it through those? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been involved in 4 shootings where I was a shooter and 15 other separate shootings where I was getting shot at or my people were shooting next to me and I just didn't have an angle or whatever. And, I had to write a report on that shooting. So, I mean, I'm one of those guys that I was involved in a lot of stuff that people, it just is what it is.
Do you ever question why you survived and others didn't, or was there anything you put your finger on and saying, hey, other than divine intervention, is there anything you can come up with as saying this is the reason why I'm still alive and kicking today?
No. So I talk a lot about mindset and skills and things like that. But why I'm alive is luck, and I was wearing my protective equipment. I mean, I took one dead center in my chest. If I didn't have a vest on, that would have been a showstopper.
Yeah. But, and I'm sure you were injured with that. A lot of people don't realize that soft body armor, while it stops projectile, you still wind up getting internal injuries and quite often massive bruising.
Yeah, it's bruising and stuff, but it was nothing crazy. But luck kept me alive. Your mindset will let you take advantage of that luck of being alive and being able to fight, but then you also need the skill set and the skills on it to actually win that encounter. So it's all stackable. You know what I mean? Just surviving something is luck. But what you do after you take the hit or whatever, that's where your training and your mindset and your skills show themselves.
One of the things that we were taught early on, and I'm sure you were too, and starting from almost day one in the academy, was never, ever, ever give up the fight. Always stay in it.
Right.
And the reason being is,
I think that was instilled in me, through sports growing up. That's
gotcha.
Just one of those, through your parents, that never quit attitude.
When we return, we're going to talk about the incident where Jared was shot 7 times with a .45, and it was a severe gunfight, and the suspect was shot and killed. I've got to say this. One of the last shootings I was in, and my wife and I call her the boss. We talk periodically about, and I met her well after police work, that I will remember for the rest of my life. The thought came to mind that this guy's trying to kill me. I didn't understand why, and I knew I was going to die, but I swore at that point that it was not going to be because of him and not because of anything he did, and I was going to do whatever it took. I mean, whatever it took to survive. This is the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. When we return our conversation with Jared Reston, we're going to talk about the night he was shot and then go into his long road to recovery. Get access to free podcast versions of the show and more on Facebook. Do a search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and be sure to click like. There's so much heading away. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you want to be a guest on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, simply contact us. It couldn't be easier. You can send us a message on Facebook. Look for and like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show page, or email jay@letradio.com. That's JAY@letradio.com. Return our conversation with Jared Reston on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Jared is retired Jacksonville police officer, retired from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but it's one of those agencies where it's a sheriff's department, but they're police officers. And the other thing is Jacksonville encompasses the entire area of Duval County, which Jacksonville is the largest city in the United States landmass-wise. In your career, Jared, you had an incident where you got into a gunfight with a criminal, not the first one. He was armed with a .45 handgun. I assume it's he, with a .45 handgun. You were shot 7 times. Are you able to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What happened? Let's start with the lead up to the confrontation.
Right. So, I was working off duty at a Square Mall. It's a local mall here in Jacksonville. And just for people who don't know, like, working off duty is like an extra way for police to make extra income by the private business will pay for the police to be there, but they also pay for the city for the use of our uniforms and things like that. And we handle law enforcement problems on the property while we're there. So, like, they don't have to dispatch a unit kind of deal. So I'm working at a local mall with my partner and best friend. We're both working, and we get contacted by loss prevention that they will be stopping some shoplifters exiting out the south doors of their store. The mall security office is on the north side, so we wouldn't be able to make it, but we had mall security bring it up on video. We were going to watch it to make sure that everything went okay. On video, you can see a white male and a black male exit the store. You see loss prevention come up to them, identify themselves as loss prevention. The male begins to physically fight loss prevention right there. So me and my partner, we take off out of the store or out of the security to try to make it to the incident. By the time we make it there, the whale was already taken into custody by loss prevention, and they were like dusting him off and walking him back to the store. We stopped. Hey, is everything okay? They say, yeah, everything's great, but the male also stole something, and we'd like him apprehended. And I'm like, okay, well, kind of where's he at? And they kind of point over to an area about 75 yards across the parking lot along the highway is like a large bus stop. Well, the suspect kind of separated himself from that to watch what was happening with his friend. And he saw us see him. We had that, like, you were a cop. You had that aha moment.
Yep,
like,
that aha moment where you lock eyes and it's on.
Yep. And he took off running, so we gave chase. And it happened about 7:40 at night, so me and my partner had to play Frogger across a 6-lane highway to get to him. And then he was, like, running through a shopping center. So we're running through the shopping center. He was kind of stuck by the front sidewalk of the shopping center as we were cutting through the parking lot. And as he started approaching, like, the corner, I saw his legs wobble, and he got, I was like, oh, that lactic acid got him. I got him now. So I told my partner I'm going to pick it up and get to the corner and go get him. So I separated myself from my partner, and as he rounded the corner, he started to walk along the sidewalk, kind of trying to act nonchalant to the traffic or whatever was there, just so he could kind of walk away. And I rounded the corner. I drew my taser because at that point I only had possible retail theft and resisting an officer. I had 2 misdemeanors. So I drew my taser, told him, hey, stop. I need you to stop. We're going to go back. Stop running. We got to go handle this, or I'm going to tase you. Well, he turned around and looks at me, has his hands up, not like above his head, but he has his hands up, probably equal with his ear height, like kind of surrendering, but still backpedaling. I'm telling him to stop or I was going to tase him, and then he turns and takes off running again. So I give him a chase, maybe 5-10 more yards. I put the red dot laser on the back of his back, squeeze the trigger, held it there for seemed like an eternity, and nothing happened. The taser never discharged. It didn't do anything. And we're still continuing to run. So I'm closing that gap on him. So I had to safe my taser, holster it, and we went hands-on with him. As soon as I went hands-on with him, he had like a hooded zip-up sweatshirt. So I was going to grab the hood, pull him down, and go to the ground with him. Well, as soon as I put my hand on his hood, he spun backwards, threw his right arm up high, and came around and then came to rest facing me. And he was facing me in a fighting stance.
Mm-hmm.
His body was bladed. His hands were covering his chin was tucked. I was like, okay, now we're in a fight. Well, so we got into the physical confrontation. Seconds into that, I don't know where he produced it from. I never recognized the signs that he was armed. But he produced the .45 caliber pistol, and the first shot hit me dead in my face. It hit me dead center of my chin and exited out my neck, and I started falling down to my left. I never heard the shot or saw the gun, or I can't say that I didn't see the muzzle flash, because I don't know if it was the muzzle flash or you get punched in the face, you see stars.
Yeah, you do.
But it felt like a punch. And when I started falling, I've been punched. I had to shake the cobwebs off a little bit. And as I'm falling down, because it happened there's think of a 25-yard circular retention pond that's dry and only has water in it when it rains. So then 4 feet deep, and it happened on the top of the embankment. And as I was rolling down that embankment, I'm telling myself, Jared, get up, get up, get up. He hit you with a good one, get up. But before I came to rest, I could feel with my tongue that my jaw has collapsed on top of itself, and my teeth are laying horizontal in my mouth. So I knew it wasn't a punch. And then I look up at him, and he's standing over me shooting me. So that's when I first recognized, okay, I'm in a gunfight. He shot me. I need to do something. So as I'm kind of shaking off the cobwebs, he's still walking away, and he would look back, and every time I moved, he would shoot at me, and he continued to shoot at me. But when from laying on my back, I drew my pistol and went strong hand only, and I was using my weak hand to push off the ground to get into a good fighting stance to try to get to my feet. But I started engaging him from my back, engaging him as he did it. But when I drew the pistol and started sitting up, he saw that and started coming back on me, trying to put me down. So I was engaging him, and I knew I was getting hits, and I could see it was working. I changed what he was doing. Everything was going well. My front sight would lay down on his torso, and he'd get another round. But he just continued to come and continued to shoot. And then when he got close enough to me, I lunged up, I grabbed him, pulled him down to me, and as I pulled him down to me, we were going to the ground. It was kind of like a belly to back. Now his head's mid-chest, but he's facing away from me. As soon as we hit the ground, I put my muzzle to his head, and I gave him 3 contact shots to his head.
And on that note, Jared, we got to take a short break. We'll return to this conversation with Jared Reston, retired Jacksonville police officer, in just a moment. This is Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Don't go anywhere. A lot's heading away. We'll be right back. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and be sure to click like. Current conversation with Jared Reston on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Jared is retired Jacksonville police officer, retired from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I know it's a long story. It's a sheriff's office that has police officers, employees. He was shot 7 times in a gunfight with a criminal who was a shoplifter, of all things, with a .45 caliber handgun. And before we get back into the details of that, he's now retired, and you can find him at the Reston Group LLC. The website is restongrouptraining.com. That's Reston, RESTON, grouptraining.com, and you find his email address there. Before we went to break, Jared, we're talking about you grabbed this guy and you pulled him towards you. And look, I get that as we tell afterwards what happened, it doesn't seem like it makes sense when it's going on. Things happen so fast that they can seem illogical at the time. And when you try to tell people afterwards, they're, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. And they think there's some big conspiracy or cover-up. But you realize at some point you were in a fight for your life. You've been shot multiple times.
Oh, 100%. He was continuing to shoot me when I grabbed him. He was just, sometimes, I knew I had hits on him, but the human body's super unimpressed with bullets is what I've come to find out. You know what I mean? Like, you can eat a lot of bullets and do and I learned early on in my career that, bad guys will continue to do what they were doing prior to you shooting them until they give up or you put their lights out.
Well,
there's really no pain compliance or anything like that when it comes to bullets.
One of the things that we were taught early on, and we had a saying, is that back in the day, and I carried a .38 revolver. So I'm an old revolver cop. We had revolvers, mace, and what we called S-band tunes in Baltimore. Great big table leg nightsticks. And they're really effective. But when it came to mace, we always said that only works on innocent bystanders and police. It never works on the bad guys, ever.
Right, yeah.
And we had this recurring nightmare. I know I've had it. I don't have it very often anymore, where you need the gun for whatever reason, and it either misfires, it dribbles out at the end, or it's not working, or, God forbid, the worst-case scenario, I wind up shooting someone else. Were you aware that you were hitting the guy, or were you thinking at the point, man, something's not right here?
So this was like my second shooting, and I've seen people shot during. I knew I was getting them just because of past performance on the range. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, I was watching that front sight come down on him, and I would hit. So I knew I was getting good hits on him. But I wasn't. It's not as immediate. Blood doesn't pop. You're not going to get any feedback from them pretty much until they go out.
It's not like television, and people don't get propelled backwards all of a sudden. Right.
No, they're going to continue to do what they were doing. So he was continuing to shoot, and he was closing the gap on me. And I guess, through training and whatever, I reached out and grabbed him and pulled him to me just because it was like, hey, man, I'm going to bring it. I'm taking it to you now. You're not taking it to me. I'm going to show you who's in control of this. Yeah, I'm hit. Yeah, I'm hurt, but I'm still winning this. And even if I didn't win it, I'm going to be holding on to you while I'm going to heaven.
Yeah, I get that. And if I'm going, I'm not going by myself.
Yeah.
And that sounds, look, you and I have that conversation. It makes total sense to me. That's the type of thing I can't have with a civilian who's never been in police work or combat in military or anything. I can't explain it. And I'm not allowed to have that conversation with people. You, on the other hand, you can talk like that. You've been through it.
Right. I mean, I like talking about it with them, and and they don't understand it and they don't do it. But my first thing I tell them is, I don't want you to I did my job, so you didn't have to understand that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, these are the scars on our souls that we bear, that we do for you, so you don't have to. I don't want to do taxes, and I need you for that. Like, that's what
Right.
Like, this is what makes a community. That's what makes everything happen, is you have people who do different jobs so everybody can live in harmony. And I protect you from people who want to do that, can do the same thing that I can do, but for evil reasons.
Right. And you wind up paying a heck of a price when all this was said and done. Before we fast forward to that, when did you know that it was over with the fight with this guy?
So when I put those 3 contact shots to his head, he was done. But through training, it's not over till he's in handcuffs and we're good. So there was like a culvert next to us. So I took him while I was on my back and kind of rolled him into that culvert. And again, like, consciously, I know he's dead. I just put bullets in his head. It's a lifeless body that I'm just rolling into a culvert now. But again, I started kicking him, pushing him into the culvert, and creating some distance. And I kept cover on him until my partner arrived, 5 seconds later. And then my partner went up, verified he was dead, came back, started rescue on me, calling for rescue, doing everything that he needs to do, controlling that scene.
How bad were your injuries?
So, I mean, they're bad. So I took one dead center of my jaw, exited out my neck.
And, dude, you're talking to me. That's the thing that blows my mind.
Yeah,
Look,
they did a great job fixing me.
It wasn't that long ago. I had a guy on from Taylor County Sheriff's Department in Florida who was shot in the face by some guy in a car stop. And he's having a full-on conversation, and he sounds perfect like you. 30 years ago, people like that didn't survive, and if they did, they were so disfigured they could never speak again. Right.
I mean, they put me back together, and I mean, I had to do about 15 surgeries to get it right, but I mean, they got me back.
Oh my God! Do you have a beard now?
Yep, I do.
I was going to sarcastically say, there's probably a good reason why you have a beard. You've probably got scars you don't want exposed to people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind my scars. I mean, for a long time, I still remained. We weren't allowed to have beards. I mean, I got a beard when I was allowed to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't mind it because my scars they tell my story. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't mind them at all, really.
Well, I got to say this, Jared. In my case, is pales in comparison. You know, there was a time where all the medals and awards and silver stars and bronze stars and all that stuff really meant a lot to me. Now, what I have are these two pieces of metal on my right hand and wrist and scars, surgical scars. I call them street tattoos. Those are the medals I see every day. And you probably see, you're probably used to it by now, but you probably don't want to explain to people how you got those scars on your face.
Right. I mean, I go around and tell this story. Like, it's been 15 years ago since I was shot. And I've been telling this story all over the country, you know, different debriefs for training purposes for everybody. Because it is such a great story of, you know, some weapons failing, you know, foot pursuits, physical fitness. Like, it has so much aspect and depth to it. But it's, you know, it's one of those things. I don't mind telling the story, but I don't like telling stories. I tell a funny story. Like, you know, one time we were at the pool at like the neighborhood pool, and someone, like one of the scars on my chest from where my body armor burned, and they were like, you know, you could get that scar removed or whatever. And I'm kind of like, you have no idea. Right. You know what I mean? I wear this. Like, that's a badge of honor right there.
No, I get it. I do. Yeah, I was going to ask you that, but you kind of answered it point blank. And the thing that you are alive, number one, blows me away. And we'll talk more about the reasons why. Yes, luck has a lot to do with it. Phenomenal medical care. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Your partner doing first aid, all those other things, the mindset. But for many people, we don't realize the news ought to say an officer is shot, but the good news is not life-threatening injuries. They never talk about what happens afterwards. There's only one official Facebook page for the show. Do a search on Facebook for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, and be sure to click like. This is the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Return to our conversation with Jared Reston in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Are you looking for great products that can be game changers for people, for their physical health, for their overall well-being? Go to letpops.com. That's letpops.com. I take these Juice Plus products. They make a world of difference for me. Better energy. I sleep better every night. Full night sleep every night. Zero leg cramps and more. Many people will tell you about the wonderful things that these products do for them. Plus, it can be a phenomenal business opportunity. You can help people improve their lives, and for a very small fee, get a complete back end, complete website, zero inventory, no shipping, none of that stuff. Get full details on our website, letpops.com. That is letpops.com. This is the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Return to our conversation with Jared Reston, retired Jacksonville, Florida police officer. He was shot 7 times with a .45 semi-automatic pistol, and in the gunfight, the suspect was shot and killed. I've said this many times, and it sounds corny to say this. You're a walking, talking miracle, and the fact that you can talk about this with me on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show is not lost on me. It's impressive. It really is. But what a lot of people don't realize, because we don't tell them, is the recovery process. Well, you said earlier scars on your chest are kind of a badge of honor. How long, you said you had 15 surgeries on your face alone. How long and how bad were the injuries? And what was the recovery process like?
So it was long and short, I guess. I mean, like so I took a shot that entered in above my left knee and my thigh, exited out high. I took one of my right buttock that went into my right buttock, broke my hip and lodged there, and then 3 to my chest, 1 through my face, and then 1 through my right elbow, like a graze. I got back to work full duty in 6 months. That is mind-blowing. You're back to full duty in 6 months. Were you driven and motivated to get back? Or was it like, I'm going to show them I'm not down? 100%. But a lot of it was I was driven and motivated before this. With my PT and just staying right and being, who I am as a person, I was ready to go back. Once my body said I'm good, then I was good, if that makes sense. I was just waiting on the healing process. But by saying that, I went back to work without any teeth on the bottom of my, so it probably took 4 years to get done with everything.
Wow.
I was back to work within 6 months, but then 3 months later I'd have to get a surgery and I'd be out for 8 weeks. And so I was probably out altogether just over a year, but over a 5-year period.
And I hate to ask this, were you in a relationship at that time?
Oh yeah, I was with my wife. My son was just 13 months old.
Oh my God, I don't know how she did it. I'll be honest. Sometimes I wonder, and I'm tearing up as we talk, because my mother, and I'm divorced from the first marriage, but my mother said she never slept well until I retired from police work, ever. And she would worry all the time. And I was so selfish and so driven. I don't say selfish in a bad way, but I was selfish and driven about what I was doing that I didn't really see the impact on those around me. Were you aware of how badly this was impacting your family?
Yes and no. We had a good understanding. She knew who I was as a person. And so we always had a plan. If my name's ever going to make the news, or they're going to send someone to the house to tell you that I was involved in an incident, but I'm going to call you first and say, Hey, listen, I was in a shooting before this. I called her and said, hey, listen, I was involved in a shooting. I can't talk about any of this, but I'm okay. Everything's good. You know what I mean? So when this shooting happened, my partner is also my best friend, Chris. So I had him call her and was like, hey, you need to call her and let her know I'm okay. And so he called from the back of the rescue, and he's like, hey, Julie, this is Chris. And she's like, hey, what's going on, Chris? He's like, we got in a little bit of a gun battle, and Jared's been hit.
I'm laughing not because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's sad. And was she angry? I had to make a phone call like that to my now ex-wife, and she was angry because she was afraid of what happened.
Yeah, no, Julie was literally in her mind. He didn't go into detail, which was perfect. She didn't say I was shot through the face. He didn't say. He was just hey. She thought maybe I was hit in the arm, and they were just or in my armor, and they're just taking me as a precautionary measure. She didn't really know the extent until she got another call from somebody else who then spilt the beans, and that wasn't a good call.
I'm sure. And by the way, let your wife know if she ever wants to tell her story on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. She's more than welcome.
Okay.
How we talked about you getting back to work in 6 months, and you had no bottom teeth. Now, I'm not going to make any jokes about Jacksonville and teeth, but I'm sure you've heard all of them.
Yeah.
Look, and I'm not saying this in a judgy, negative way. I went through periods of time where I was going to show them that I was not this or that, or I was not down for the count, whatever it might be. And no matter how badly it hurt, I would never let them see me bleed. Never. And I would say right. That's the agency I work for, plus the bad guys.
Right.
Was that part of your thinking?
A little bit. And it's always like, I always tell people too, I was never going to let this shooting change the person that I am, right? The husband, the wife, the husband, the father, the friend, whoever it is, And like, I can't let somebody beat me from the grave. You're not going to change who I was. With the medications that I take and doing things like that, I didn't want anything to change.
No, I get that. I get it 100%. I got to ask you, how successful have you been in not changing?
I think pretty good.
Good.
I mean, I've always been a hardhead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why we're still alive. I say stubbornness went a long way.
Right, and that's what some people say. If anybody, that's what I think. God put me in that situation because He knew I could handle it.
Well, I'd
rather it be me than some other people that I know.
Exactly. One of the things I told my wife, the boss, the other day is that if I was in grade school now, they'd probably have on all kinds of medication. It was that kind of stubbornness and determination that probably allowed me to survive. I don't have the answers. Would that be a fair assessment for you?
Oh, 100%.
Did that motivate? Now you're retired from policing. Thank God. Because this is, I'm sweating. I cried a couple of times. We talked, Jared, to be honest with you. You're finally retired, but you're still in the law enforcement game. Now, I want to talk about two things. You've got wrestlinggrouptraining.com, which we'll talk about in a moment, but you are involved with a leather group called Safariland, and they were very big when I was policing. What do you do for them?
Right. Well, so I'm a regional sales rep for them, and I'm in their Legion line. It's not just leather gear. We actually produce body armor.
See, back in the day, I think
I was wearing when I was shot.
That's you're a great example of surviving that. We joked that the holsters we were given were horrible, and we would always spend our money on getting Safariland holsters. You also are involved, and I get the motivation for why you want to do that, but what motivates you to do what you do with your group training, and what is that all about?
So I started touring the country and doing these talks, and I lived in a weird bubble with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. We are a very well-trained organization, well-funded, well-trained, and like that. We I guess just the culture down here is provided that for us. And when I started touring, I noticed that not all agencies were given the same amount of training.
Right.
And I felt it was my duty as someone who's been there to share my experiences and to share what got me to winning that gunfight and how to push and do things. So like I started wrestling group training to offer, law enforcement training to law enforcement and civilians. I don't think there's a lot of great information out there. There's some that just gets, so I wanted to put out what I believe is the best information to armed professionals and civilians on actually winning gunfights and how to do it and prepare for it.
And I'm sure as part of your training, you talk about, maybe you don't, the winning the battle afterwards, because it's a long battle after the event.
I mean, 100% we talk about it, but also winning the battle with it is they're standing there with me and we're cutting up, joking, and living life. You know what I mean? I'm not a robot, I'm a living example of what life is. I love life. You know what I mean? I'll live it to the fullest.
Now you made me singing. You had me crying. You had me sweating. Now you had me singing that song from, I think, Scrooge, the movie, I Like Life, Life Likes Me. We're talking with Jared Reston. He's retired Jacksonville police officer, retired from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, shot 7 times in a gunfight with a .45 caliber handgun, including once in the face. Jared, thank you for your service, number one, and thanks for being a guest on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Both very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. Anytime, man. Great talking.
I'd like to thank our guests for coming on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. The Law Enforcement Talk radio show is a nationally syndicated weekly radio show broadcast on numerous AM and FM radio stations across the country. We're always adding more affiliate stations. If you enjoyed the podcast version of the show, which is always free, please do me a favor and tell a friend or two or three. I'll be back in just a few days with another episode of the Law Enforcement Talk radio show and podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.